Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. While Daniel declares his love for Tessa, Ian makes fun of Mariah. The Young and the Restless Wednesday, October 22nd episode included Ian harassing and taunting Mariah, Sharon making a tough choice, Daniel declaring his love for Tessa, and Nick beginning to investigate Sienna's history. The Young and the Restless events. On The Young and the Restless, Daniel declares his love for Tessa. When Sharon told Nick about Mariah's deteriorating condition while she was in Los Angeles, she apologized for not being able to support her. Sharon feels divided because she couldn't abandon Noah in his current state, yet Mariah asked her explicitly. Nick assured Sharon that Mariah would comprehend, but Sharon remembered how Mariah's perspective might have been affected by the pause in her voice. Nick advised Sharon to go see Mariah at the clinic if her anxiety kept growing. Sharon snubbed his belief that Noah would be able to tell the difference. Nick believed Sharon had let guilt influence her choices, but she said, "No, that is not true. He's in there. He can hear my voice even if he cannot answer, and he knows when it's my hand lying in his hand." There was nothing Sharon could do to alleviate the unbearable suffering that two of her children were experiencing. She sobbed once again as she collapsed into Nick's arms. In the hopes that her information might help with her daughter's recovery, Sharon called the clinic to give them an update on her latest encounters with Mariah. After clearing it up, Nick called Nikki to provide an update on Noah's crash, and Sharon went back to Noah's bedside. Nick maintained his claim that the detective posed an odd series of questions, and that the combination of that and Sienna's call made no sense. Everything seemed strange, and new questions about how Noah ended up battling for his life kept coming up. Nothing was forthcoming from the man posing as law enforcement. Nick asked his father to research Sienna's background in order to find out how she was related to Noah, because she made everything seem even more hazy. Sharon made a decision about how to resolve her disagreement with Mariah. The greatest option for her, in her opinion, was to remain in Los Angeles with Noah. She had to be there for Noah in case his condition changed. It didn't need Sharon's immediate attention because she believed Mariah was secure in Boston. Ian made fun of Mariah's expression in the Boston clinic, telling her to keep in mind how well he knew her. She insisted he wasn't real when he told her that she had made herself feel lonely. Ian was informed by Mariah that he belonged in hell. Ian encouraged Mariah to remember her bravery and not to hide behind cliched defenses. Mariah believed her mind had deceived her and didn't believe Ian was real. Mariah reminded herself that Victor had shot and murdered him in an effort to make sense of the tragedy. But Ian begged her to feel his pounding, living heart as he extended for her hand. He resisted her request to depart. Leaving Mariah behind, Ian brought up Tessa and further enticed her with her embarrassment. He had the impression that Mariah was attempting to keep her distance from everyone in order to prevent harming them. Ian questioned whether he had contributed anything to Mariah's current situation. He wondered if their shared history was the reason she brought him up in therapy sessions. Mariah hesitated to look at Ian, and even though she attempted to close her eyes and make him vanish, he was still there when she opened them. "I am the guiding force behind your entire existence," he yelled. The face of her worries was imprisoned in a room. Ian picked up the Queen of Hearts after turning to face the floor. But this time, rather than being ripped from Tessa's suffering, the card was intact. He hinted that he would have the secret to guiding her through the chaos. Ian believed he was all she had left and that no one knew her any better or longer. "I can't get rid of you no matter what I do, and I have done terrible things to try and get you out of my life. Things that I can't wash away." Mariah had had enough and got to her feet. Ian commended Mariah's dark instincts and declared that he loved the darkness within her. He recalled how she had pretended to be Sharon's deceased daughter in order to haunt her some years prior. Ian believed that she needed to accept her wicked side and that the nice girl persona was not meant to last. He liked how Mariah pushed Tessa and their daughter away, even though she asked him to stop talking. Mariah asked Ian how she should proceed because he seemed to know all the answers. He hoped she'd manage to let out her rage on the world. Unfortunately for Mariah, Ian sensed that she was keeping something from him and demanded further information. He didn't exist in her eyes, therefore she refused to listen to his entreaties. It was all about him and Jordan and the horrible things they did just to get to her. Every thought and emotion made her want to run away from her guilt. Because the illness he infected her with consumed every aspect of her life, alcohol was insufficient to remove it. Mariah described what she did the night she attacked the man and how he made her think of Ian. She had no option since, although he was a genuine person, his existence was an echo of Ian. Ian demanded more information and needed to understand her strategy, and she acknowledged that she had deceived him into feeling secure. When he asked her to return to his room, Mariah realized that killing the monster in front of her was the only way to solve the problem. He was Ian's proxy, and his influence would go from her life if he were killed. Victor outwitted Mariah, who wanted to be the one to murder Ian. When Ian found out that Mariah was unable to carry out her plan to kill him, he was shocked. She would be granting Ian the highest degree of authority if she killed that man. He said, "Here we are, just the two of us. I know why you couldn't ill that poor man. Because you couldn't kill me. We're kindred spirits, you and I, and the darkness I've awakened with you, it's on." She denied that she was similar to him in any way. Because Mariah was a kind person, she didn't carry out the murder. Being in the facility was the only option for her to move past her feelings of regret for what she had done. Mariah is determined to show that she would never be like Ian, who, while he was alive, intended to shape her into an evil being. Mariah wanted Ian to leave because, in her final words, he was nothing and no one. She closed her eyes once more, but when she opened them, he was gone. But the Queen of Hearts was still whole, which made her doubt everything. At the athletic club, Daniel and Tessa kept drinking until Tessa retreated. Both of them attempted to take responsibility for the kiss, but Tessa ultimately decided to blame the booze. She corrected Daniel when he suggested it was merely a diversion, revealing that she had been imagining the kiss for a while. It wasn't a coincidence, and Daniel acknowledged that he considered kissing her as well. They each understood that the other had always wanted things to get more intense. Tessa wondered if acting on it was bad, but Daniel was sure it was wishful thinking. Despite the difficult circumstance, they made the decision to forget about it and go to sleep. Tessa wondered if Daniel would be able to wake up and forget the kiss. They agreed to go for a walk after the kiss startled them both awake. Tessa was concerned that she had destroyed the basis of their friendship when she and Daniel decided to have coffee at Crimson Lights. She was worried that it was too uncomfortable, but Daniel thought it would all be over. She urged him to express his feelings and opinions honestly. Tessa said, "I have feelings for you that I can't explain. There's comfort, but there's also excitement. I see your face and I hear your voice, and I feel relief because I know life will be brightened for however long I'm with you. And that feeling, it makes me float, but it also grounds me, and it's got me through so many moments and so many days. It's wonderful, but it's awful too." Although she concurred with Daniel that life was complex, he was the epitome of comfort because, in spite of everything that was dark, he still had light. He confessed that he was falling for Tessa when she dubbed him her best friend, but he instantly apologized. She wanted him to stay, but Daniel wanted to keep quiet as he tried to storm off. In any case, she was appreciative of their time together and may fall in love with him in a different reality. Tessa questioned whether it helped that she would love him in an other universe or time period, but it didn't. She was confused and unsure, and he could only concentrate on his actual life. Tessa declared her resolve to defend her marriage and family since she didn't want to lead Daniel on. He promised to get over the kiss, and they had to get over it if they couldn't forget what had happened. Daniel didn't want their long-established friendship to be ruined by this incident. In the worst possible way, Ian enters Mariah's mind. Thank you for joining the young and the restless daily YPP for a brief. You're already halfway through. Recap of the most incredible, or what the hell did we just watch? Moments from today's premiere. Now, let's get started. The Young and the Restless events. On The Young and the Restless, Mariah might have discovered that Ian was constantly on her mind. If Sharon had known that her daughter had created an illusion in the form of villainous Ian Ward, she might have reconsidered her hasty decision to join Mariah. Ian was costumed as a priest by The Young and the Restless, which was fitting as Mariah eventually told her former abuser a lot of things. Because she almost killed a guy, Mariah is terrified to embrace her dark side. Rather than Sharon telling her daughter she was a nice person, Mariah had to deal with Ian's bad nature, or at least his spirit. With great pleasure, Wise accepted Ian's evil ways. Ian enjoys giving someone a negative self-perception. Every time he thought he was making Mariah feel worse, his vivid blue eyes glowed like the 4th of July. There's a part of Mariah that regrettably feels she doesn't deserve to be joyful because, after all of this is in her head. This is probably because they were influenced by Ian during their formative years. Although Mariah hasn't told anybody else anything that transpired, she did tell Father Ian. Ian's dark humor was evident when Mariah told Ian that he had a lot of power over her day-to-day activities. Ian joked, "For a dead man, I certainly get around. Despite Mariah's belief that he is dead, we know that he is not. Do you want further information? We've got you." The greatest comprehensive YNR recaps may be found online at Soap Central. You may even read every single one of them going back more than 30 years. We also provide daily spoilers if you are unable to wait for the next episode. The 2 Scoops is as close as we can get to being a watching party without really being a show. So whatever you do this weekend, please remember to read it for some chuckles. Hey, admit it, we're funny. The best thing is that we want to know if you agree or disagree. Leave a remark below as usual. A Gothic symphony of guilt, longing, and confrontation. The October 22nd episode of The Young and the Restless intertwined 2 storylines that delved into the most intimate recesses of the human heart. Ian Ward, the phantom of Mariah's greatest tragedy, appeared before her eyes at the Boston clinic, sending her into a nightmare that made it difficult to distinguish between hallucination and haunting. Instead of appearing as a ghoul from beyond, he was the physical manifestation of the fear and shame she had carried since she was a young girl. Ian, who was dressed in the somber rigor of a priest's collar, made fun of the idea of forgiveness and turned Mariah's treatment into a private confession of suffering. He taunted her about the people she had pushed away and the loneliness she had chosen, while his voice slithered through her head. He charged that she was addicted to suffering and that she thrived on loneliness the way people do. She repeatedly reminded herself that Victor had slain him years before, trying to brush him off as a phantom. But as if her denial gave him shape, the phantasm continued, getting stronger every time she fought. Mariah lost her temper when Ian grasped her hand and insisted that she feel his beating heart. Her senses had failed her, implying that the dead may continue to exist as long as they were fiercely remembered. The Queen of Hearts card, a representation of the harmony between her broken self, appeared between them, this time undamaged. Holding it up like a mirror, Ian assured her that only he truly understood the depths of her soul and that her efforts at goodness were merely a front for the evil he had once fostered inside of her. As Mariah thought back on her past, the deceptions, the manipulations, and the horrible thing she almost did to stop Ian's voice from echoing, her fear gave way to resistance. She had assaulted a guy who made her think of her previous kidnapper, whose passing may have been both her salvation and her downfall. Ian's ghost now blossomed from the rich roots of her remorse. Every charge he leveled at her, about her dishonesty, her brutality toward Sharon, and her desertion of Tessa, felt like an inside reality as much as an outward judgment. Ian cruelly, precisely pried open her mind, reveling in this dualism. He encouraged her to embrace the chaos that had always characterized her and to quit acting like she was good. His eyes gleamed with wicked joy as he murmured, "You and I are kindred spirits. The darkness within you is a calling, not a curse." Mariah, however, resisted giving up. She stood, shaky but determined, and said she was nothing like him. Remorse, not evil, was her legacy, she insisted, her voice breaking under the weight of memories. Only the entire Queen of Hearts card remained after he vanished when she closed her eyes to banish him. That brittle symbol taunted her determination, a reminder that his imprint still throbbed inside her even if the monster had disappeared. As if facing Ian's ghost had given her a tentative step toward recovery, the camera stayed on her face, haunted, hollow, yet lit by the smallest glimmer of calm. In Genoa City, another emotional storm was simmering under quieter tones and softer lighting. Both Daniel and Tessa, exhausted by the never-ending complexities of love and loyalty, were pulled into a recklessly vulnerable moment. Years passed before the drunken kiss at the athletic club turned into a confession. When they parted their lips, the room fell silent like static, and they both tried to justify their actions by blaming the confusion, the late hour, or the drink. But when Tessa acknowledged that the kiss was no coincidence, she had dreamed it innumerable times, her shaky voice betrayed her. Startled, yet forthright, Daniel admitted that he had as well. It was an uncommon form of emotional and physical intimacy, the recognition of a connection that had subtly grown stronger behind the awning of friendship. Nevertheless, they were both frightened by the realization. Even though the kiss was intoxicating, it jeopardized the stability of everything they held dear, including their families, their reputations, and their tenuous peace. In the hopes that distance would calm their hearts, they made the decision to walk away the stress and withdraw into the refreshing night air. Tessa's uneasiness reappeared at crimson lights amidst the reassuring scent of coffee and the murmur of soft conversation. She was afraid that one impetuous act had ruined the trust they had established. Daniel told her it hadn't, but there was a glimmer of want in his voice that he couldn't shake. The next exchange was frank and personal, with two people analyzing their emotions as if they were doing emotional surgery. Tessa attempted to explain the inability to strike a balance between love and self-control. She described to Daniel how his presence was a light that pierced through her darkest moments and made her feel both weightless and grounded. She apologized and confessed in equal measure. Daniel was so moved that he finally revealed what had been concealed beneath all of his apprehensive giggles and kind gestures. He was falling for her. Like a flare before thunder, the statement lingered in the atmosphere. As soon as it got out, he regretted it, since he thought it would ruin everything. Tessa's entreaty stopped him as he turned to go. She acknowledged that she had deep emotions as well, but her devotion to her spouse and family kept her heart firmly planted. She envisioned a world in which circumstances did not limit love and where things may be different. Daniel's eyes softened, but the sorrow persisted. The understanding that love cannot be silenced once it has been expressed. He promised to put the incident behind him, if only to keep the friendship intact, even though they both understood that their boundaries had been permanently crossed. Sharon struggled with her own unachievable decisions back in Los Angeles. She attempted, but was unable, to split herself between her whirling daughter Mariah and her comatose son Noah. Though remorse murmured that she was leaving Mariah behind, her maternal instinct urged her to remain by Noah's bedside. Stable but troubled, Nick reassured her that Mariah would comprehend, but Sharon's emotions would not be placated. She held on to Noah's hand because she thought he could hear her words, feel her touch, and be saved from the edge by love alone. However, the rifts in her beliefs grew as she sobbed in Nick's arms. Unbeknownst to her, Mariah and Ian were facing off in a psychological maelstrom that would either liberate or destroy her. As their emotional candor compelled them to face long-suppressed impulses, Daniel and Tessa's narrative was redefining the rules of friendship and loyalty in another part of Genoa City. Despite their seeming differences, the two storylines were similar in that Daniel and Tessa had to face the ghost of unsaid love in order to maintain their integrity, while Mariah had to face the ghost of her abuser in order to regain her identity. Although none of the characters achieved total serenity at the end of the episode, they were all closer to the truth. Mariah discovered that admitting the evils in the past is the first step toward redemption rather than wiping it out. Tessa and Daniel learned that love, no matter how pure, may be both a temptation and a source of salvation. Nick felt that every family's secret, Sienna's, Noah's, and Mariah's, was a thread leading to deeper mysteries, and Sharon understood that a mother's heart cannot be in two places at once. The ultimate metaphor for the program itself was the eerie picture of the Queen of Hearts lying in Mariah's shaking hand. Love and lunacy, guilt and elegance, all encapsulated in the delicate form of a single beating heart. The young and the restless demonstrated once more that redemption is never easy in Genoa City, and that the ghosts of the past never remain buried for long as the credits rolled, leaving viewers caught between hope and terror.